when thinking about building feedback in your data management, Asia and I are going to talk through just some best practices and what we've seen in terms of how often to solicit that feedback from staff members, community members, folks that you're serving. What are some of the challenges that we've faced or have seen during those processes, and what existing data collection processes we can refine or optimize just to garner more meaningful feedback. And again, have that fine line of quantitative and qualitative to tell the whole story. So, Asia, what have you seen as some of the best practices for getting that feedback? We've talked a little bit about the just how important it is to get that feedback, but what have you seen like logistically, mechanically, in the best ways to get that from folks?
For sure. I've definitely seen an immersive approach be done very successful. And what I mean by that is specifically there's power in the follow up, obviously, but being able to go back to the basics has been really helpful. People inundate themselves with technology a lot. And so it is overwhelming on the eye, it's overwhelming on the mind. And so making a phone call, I've seen that done successfully where people really do appreciate that. And depending on, where you are in the state, or in the country at large, depending on how you're collecting your data or if folks have moved around. It's super important that on those phone calls you do definitely, ask, is it okay if we use this information that we're gathering from you to be able to, for not only our internal records, but also to better support, you'll be confidential, cover your bases from a legal standpoint and regulatory, of course, right? But that immersive experience, it allows for the person that you're extracting some of the feedback from to be part of, right? It takes it a step further than making them feel like they're a part of it by way of the traditional surveys, the traditional emails that get sent, hey, just checking in, how's things going? It makes it a little bit more intimate. And then also I've seen it being done very successfully per my recommendations at certain events in terms of, are you going to incorporate it within the event, not at the end? Not at the top, but how is it a part of the program design in and of itself? And it's almost like you're priming your audience to be excited about providing feedback, because I think what gets lost in translation sometimes is letting your audience know why they need the feedback, not just what it will do, but why is it important that they get the feedback from you in real time in the way that you do collect the feedback.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a really powerful point. If you're going to be engaging some of this client feedback, having them be on the ground level in terms of helping design what this engagement looks like. We all have a lot of things on our calendars every given day, our clients included. So understanding generally whether it's timing it around a bus route that a lot of folks take, timing it around their work schedules, just making sure you're making this as accessible, because they are bringing a lot of value and a little bit of that human aspect to your proposals, and just showing again that you're valuing and honoring their time. And I think in terms of surveying, I think it really depends on how many folks you're serving. If you have a smaller food pantry, it might be easy to survey folks on maybe a quarterly, bi-monthly basis. But if you're serving thousands of folks, like some of the larger regional food banks or community soup kitchens, I've seen some of those larger organizations do maybe a month where they're surveying, trying to get a representative sample of the thousands of folks that they're serving, and then balancing some of those quantitative questions, things like their age, their demographics, what kind of services they need, with that opportunity to tell some of their story.
That's a really great point. I want to ask you too, in your experience, in terms of the data management component, like after you've collected some of that feedback, some nonprofits can feel a little overwhelmed with all the information that they have. And yes, they want to be able to use it in their grant application. But what have you seen done in terms of managing that data so that you're not overrun with data, so you don't lose the personal story or the humanizing component of wanting to sell the point in the mission?
Absolutely. I think that comes down to like the survey design, where you are making sure that you're trying to figure out what exactly this survey is for, whether it's for understanding more about your clients, maybe expanding your programming. I think you want to make sure that these surveys aren't too cumbersome, both for you to analyze, but also for the client to go through. No one wants to sit for an hour and a half long survey, even if you're the best, most cheery person they've ever met.
Touche.
So I think having that balance. I'm thinking about the survey instrument. Some things like Google Forms will help you break down that data a little bit easier, and just having a clear breakdown on what's quantitative, what's qualitative. And obviously there's no way to really automate some of those qualitative components with those comments and stories, but going through that. But trying to find a way to use Excel, other data management systems to help give pie charts, give breakdowns on what the yeses or nos or what the different multiple choice answers might be.
Absolutely. I'm hearing a lot of convenience. I'm hearing a lot of quickness, but also maintaining that accuracy and representative sample of exactly what's going on with you in your community or the nonprofit that you're serving. And so, as you're continuing to reflect on the points that you see on the slide, particularly in this section, make sure that you are also leveraging some of the information and personal story and professional experience that Anthony and I are laying out, because as it relates to incorporating data into your grant, you can get lost in the weeds, but again, it's important to highlight not only the success, but also highlight some of those metrics where, as Anthony mentioned earlier, at what point are you surveying, right? Be mindful of that calendar. We're going to bring that grant calendar right back around as well, because if you're meeting that deadline, that means that that's going to impact your data collection process. So continue to exchange information with all of the rest of the individuals within your cohort as it relates to how often is your organization collecting feedback from staff and community members, and also some of those challenges you may have encountered. You may be able to learn from one another. And then lastly, as we move forward ahead, what existing data collection processes could you refine, or you can better strengthen your approach to making sure you're really drilling down so that funders truly understand the impact that you're making, but also the deficit that they can fill by way of the funding that you are asking for through your grant application. So continue to engage in the forum and also continue to share your stories so that we can better focus around, again, ending food insecurity as the overall mission. And we look forward to chatting with you a little bit more throughout the rest of the course.